Welcome to a special episode of the TECHunplugged Videocast sponsored by Pure Storage. I'm Max Portilaro and I'm with Ariane Timmerman. Today we are honored to be joined by Ajay Singh, Chief Product Officer at Pure Storage. Welcome, Ajay.
Thank you, Max and Oran. Super excited to be here.
So, Ajay, could you just briefly introduce yourself and then we'll kick into the first question?
Sure. I've joined Pure about 9 months ago. I joined Pure from VMware, where I ran the cloud management business unit. A lot of that was around the cloud operating model. And I'm really super excited to talk to you and share with you today some of the announcements we are making, which are actually a significant progression, a big step up in the company vision. And that's the vision around what modern data storage and management should be. And our view is these are services, they should be services delivered as code, self managed using AI, artificial intelligence. So that's kind of a big shift in the company direction and the vision in terms of it's a progression from where the company was. And I'm super excited about that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned three of the keywords here. So what you're announcing? Significant progression of division and direction, unified cloud computing operations / procurement model, enabling cloud native modern apps built on containers, and then driving infrastructure modernization on all flash storage. So you've been instrumental in building this because you're the chief product officer. So can you tell us maybe a bit more on the announcement? I know we're going to cover all of them a bit more in detail, but at least as an introduction.
Yes, so there's actually three announcements we are making, kind of in light of this progression of services delivered as code. One is called Pure Fusion, which is focused around delivering a storage cloud infrastructure for all of Pure Storage's assets. The second is around Portworx Data Services, which is around delivering modern application data services like SQL, NoSQL, streaming kind of services as an outcome and as a service. And then finally, we have some improvements made to Pure One to accommodate and really start to drive all of this using the Meta AI engine. So that's kind of the key elements. I would say the other element you mentioned was progression. And yes, so this is a progression, if you may, of the company's direction. It really marries Pure's founding ethos of simplicity at scale with, if you may, three major market trends. One is adoption of cloud operating model everywhere, which is kind of a big trend in the industry. The second is the rise of the modern cloud native applications. Kubernetes-based applications are being built everywhere these days using all kinds of Kubernetes platforms. And finally, the shift to modernizing today's infrastructure towards an all-flash data center. That's the journey we have been on as Pure Storage. And so if you think about Pure Storage for a minute, we started on this ethos of simplicity at scale, which is, our arrays have essentially the manual is like the front and back of a business card, really easy to use. You plug it in and it works. And as a result, our customer NPS score is north of 80%, and we call it iPhone-like simplicity. In fact, our NPS score is even better than an iPhone. And you can imagine that's a great starting point if you want to kind of build a cloud operating model on top of that. And that's why it's a progression. It's kind of, we've got an amazing starting point with simplicity at scale. And we've now put the automation above that to really deliver this cloud operating model. And that's what these announcements are about.
Yeah, thanks. That's one of the terms that came to our attention, and you said it a couple of times, the word progression. Would you say that today's achievements are a continuation of Pure Storage strategy layout in the previous years, or has there been an acknowledgement of changes, not just around Pure's strategy, but also the market direction in general? And do you think that the COVID-19 pandemic has played a role in that as well?
So definitely, as I had mentioned earlier on, this is really a progression of Pure's direction with kind of simplicity at scale as a starting point. And then I talked about the three trends about, the cloud operating model being used everywhere, the rise of modern cloud native applications, shift to the all-flash data center. So it's really marrying that with our core simplicity at scale ethos. With the adoption of cloud, certainly the pandemic has increased the adoption of cloud. And so it is in that direction that we are really offering a cloud operating model for all our assets using Pure Fusion and Portworx Data Service.
So, Ajay, a couple of times you've been talking about making storage infeasible, about infrastructure being delivered as code, and it seems to be very crucial in the vision which is being laid out here by yourself and Pure Storage. So, can you tell us something about it?
Absolutely. A key part of a cloud ultimately is, making it infinite scale, making it self-service, doing intelligent workload management, enhancing the reliability, and doing some seamless automation through storage as code. And a key part of this, particularly for developers and for line of businesses, they don't want to deal with storage. They would much rather have storage and the infrastructure become invisible, and all they have is a line of code in a Git repository that they can take through a CI/CD process where they can spin up the infrastructure, bring it down, all through code. And that's the beauty of what Pure Fusion and what Portworx Data Services does, because it's all consumption through a storage as code model, an API surface that the developers can essentially use to make this infrastructure disappear.
Yes, and the other announcement of today relates to Portworx Data Services, which is the first database as a service platform for Kubernetes in the industry. Can you tell us more about this offering, and do you envision expanding the service offering portfolio on Portworx Data Services in the coming months?
Absolutely. So I have to say, I'm super excited about Portworx Data Services, because what Portworx Data Services does is it really helps Pure position more upstack to all the way to data services. So obviously, Pure is already doing infrastructure. We do a whole bunch of things in data management, but this is taking it up another layer above to data services. That's the beauty of Portworx Data Services. And it really builds on top of the great work we already do with Portworx Enterprise. If you recall, we acquired Portworx about a year ago, and this is the next step up from Portworx. Whereas Portworx itself does a fabulous job, is the leader in Kubernetes data management, and has a whole bunch of automation that you get the benefit of Kubernetes through this automation of backup, disaster recovery, HA, those kind of capabilities for storage. What Portworx Data Services does is a platform built on top of it to enable setting up modern applications with a single click. And so in some sense, it has a broad set of data services supported. And over time, you can expect a dozen or so data services on it. SQL, NoSQL, search, streaming kind of services like Cassandra, Couchbase, Postgres, Redis, MongoDB, Elastic, Kafka, Spark, to name a few. So yes, over time, we will continue to introduce more services, and we're going to simplify the setup of these services with a single-click deployment. And effectively, for all these services, you end up getting a consistent operational model in how you operate it. Ultimately, our vision is to enable technology teams to become storage and data services service providers to their lines of businesses and their developers.
So, Ajay, customers of Pure Storage love Pure One Meta, and it's really one of the key differentiators among your offerings. And we heard that the Pure One Management Portal is also getting some improvements, some, let's say, the addition of some kind of enhanced automation. So are you implying self-driving storage? What is, let's say, the confidence that your customers, that organizations have with that kind of technology? What is it bringing to the table?
Absolutely. Pure One is a leader in the industry in kind of this whole notion of proactive support, driven by AI ops, using AI techniques. And we have certainly enhanced Pure One through better subscription planning, ransomware protection assessments, upgrade recommendation and execution, and container topology displays and leveraging that. But all of this ultimately does flow into the Meta AI engine. And we are driving the Meta AI engine in the direction of self-driving storage. That's exactly where we're going. And today already, 80% of the time, we find problems for customers. The engine finds the problems, and we fix it without the customer even knowing about it. So it's that level of intelligence that's built into Meta API, into the Meta AI engine, and certainly for Pure Fusion and for Portworx Data Services, these enhancements will come to bear as well.
Yes, thanks for that. As a closing comment, could you briefly recapitulate in a few points the business value of today's announcement?
Yeah, so as I said, this is a significant progression in the company vision, and at a macro level of what we feel like modern storage and management should be, right? Services delivered as code, self-managed through AI. And ultimately, it's a journey of automation. And that's what the cloud operating model is all about. How can we automate away so that infrastructure just disappears? Not only does infrastructure disappear, but also is available as code. And then further for developers, they can kind of leverage and quickly set up through one click a whole bunch of modern data services that they can then in turn use to mine the rich data they have to develop the insights they require to get a competitive edge in the digital transformation. And that's what the modern data experience is all about. We really feel that the customers are on this modern data experience journey about modernizing infrastructure, modernizing operations, and modernizing applications. And that's the journey we are fulfilling.
Well, Jay, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here with us on this special episode of the Tech Unplugged Videocast, sponsored by Pure Storage.